It's 12:02 by my clock, so I know more will be joining us, but let's go ahead and let's get started, and then they can just catch up with us. As always, a little housekeeping. Feel free to chat with us, interrupt us at any point, and ask questions, and don't wait till the end. And, we try to answer those as we go. If you do have questions at the end, of course, we'll try to save a few minutes. No promises, because when Tug gets on a roll, guys, look out. So, all right, let's kick this thing off. We are definitely talking about focus plus intensity equals results here. And I am so happy to have builder Tug Huddleston with me today. So his name is Jason. Nobody knows him as Jason, so he's Tug. So that's what we're going with today. So little way in the with some intros here. Of course, most of you know me. I'm Kimberly Mackey. My company is New Home Solutions Consulting. And what I do is I help builders to make sure that their systems and processes and sales all are working together so that sales is the engine really that drives the train rather than running it off the tracks. I help with operations. I've kind of been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. As far as my training, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to not only build homes, but work in operations, be an acting division president, work for the big nationals as well as local builders. So, I love that I have that broad background because it gives me a unique perspective to help my clients to weather really any market conditions. So if I can help you, please feel free to reach out to me. I know the phone's been quite busy these days as people are concerned about the market. So, but happy to help anybody as much as I can. And Tug, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your story so people get to know you a little better?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I wasn't actually going to talk about this, but since you brought it up, it's Tug. So Tug McGraw is who I was named after. He was a baseball pitcher. Many of you may remember him, but he retired the year I was born. So my father wanted to name me Tug. I don't even think you know this, Kimberly.
I didn't know that.
My father wanted to name me Tug before I was born, but my mother refused to put Tug on the birth certificate. So I don't even know where Jason came from, but I've never been called Jason in my entire life. If somebody calls the office looking for Jason, they know that they're a solicitor or the IRS, and they just put them to voicemail. So that's where Tug came from. So I started in the construction business way back in 1998, straight out of high school as an electrician. So I went to a trade school for 4 years as an electrical apprentice, got a contract or my electrical journeyman's license, worked in that field for a number of years and then kind of topped out and then went on to work for a large builder in our area, got my contractor's license after the '08 debacle when he went out of business, got my contractor's license and started doing remodel and custom homes, which was fun, but can be challenging. So I ended up with landing on Red Door Homes, which is more of a portfolio style building. So it has some customizations, but we kind of narrow it down to a select few floor plans. It allows us to service the customer better and deliver a product in a more timely manner. So my electrical background and coming up through the ditches certainly helps me relate to the trades in the field when I'm doing a one-on-one dialogue with an issue in the field or something. I have that to fall back on so they can't basically pull the wool over my eyes because I came through the ditches. But right now I'm a proud owner of Red Door Homes here in North Central Florida. I love what I do. I love our team and I love our product. And I'm happy to be here with you today, Kimberly.
So Tug has a really great group. And I love that you're a success story as a business owner coming from the trades. I mean, right now, such an important message in our industry that we need more trades. We need more of our kids coming out of high school knowing that this is an opportunity and a huge opportunity to be a business owner, to really go on a large growth path. Not everybody has to go to a 4-year college or get a doctorate or any of those things in order to be successful today. So I'm glad to know the rest of that story. So thank you for sharing it. If you guys don't know, this is how to get a hold of Tug. I did a couple of things that I don't normally do. So there's facebook.com. Please follow them on Facebook. This man has no fear. Literally, he wore a toga in one of his videos. Okay. So if you want to see marketing that will grab your attention and have no fear whatsoever, in fact, I suggested, he was one of the few builders that I knew could pull it off. And I suggested that he start doing TikTok. Terrifying, but it's working. So he's definitely pulling that off. And if you want to just search him up and look at this hashtag Red Door Nation, and you'll always hear him say that on his videos. So everything he does is Red Door Nation. He always tells me whenever I'm going to see him at a conference or something, I'll be the guy with the red shoes. And I'm like, I'm shocked.
Got him on right now.
Always got to have on the red. Absolutely. So a little bit of information about what I have coming up to. I'm really super excited. I have my first group already filled. We're getting ready to start and have our informational meeting on the Lead from the Side Academy. So guys, if you have anybody who is interested in taking their sales management and leadership, it's focused on that leadership and really growing it to the next level. Even those people who are interested in getting into sales leadership, then this would be the group for you. It's small groups of 5 or 6. It's a 1-year commitment. This is not an easy thing. This is an academy. There's going to be a lot of work, and it's peer-led. I will, of course, be guiding the way. There is a curriculum that we will go through, and it is an online academy, except that we will get together twice a year so that we can have more intense sessions and go see what each other's working on in this and share and learn from each other's best practices. So I'm very, very excited about this. If you would like some information on that, just email info@newhomesolutions.com, and Krista and I will get back to you as soon as possible and get you the information on that. So, and then last but not least, we don't have another head-to-head between now and December. So you'll remember we had one in August, and we're doing this one in September. We had to skip a few months because of my crazy travel schedule. But in December, I have Robert Stevenson, who is the author of Soar Like an Eagle in a World Full of Turkeys and 3 other best-selling books. The man has spoken in front of literally millions of people and corporations around the world. So this is a big deal, and he's going to talk to us. And I felt like in December, what a perfect time to learn from his expertise on leadership. So I'm thrilled that he is going to be joining me in December. So, and thrilled that it worked out with his travel schedule too. So please mark your calendars for that. If you didn't register for all of the episodes, then you can go back into the same link you used and register for this one. And of course, I'll be sending that out in the show notes and everything as well. So with that, all of that out of the way now, Tug, it's time to focus and get down to business.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's talk about the market. And you are, just so people understand, Tug builds in Gainesville, Florida, which is in Central Florida, North Central Florida. And he is a purely scatter site builder. You don't do any inventory, right, Tug?
That's correct.
So college town, but you also build in the surrounding areas as well.
We do a 60-mile radius.
Okay. All right. And so your buyers might, that's a smaller market. It's not like Tampa. It's not Orlando. It's not Jacksonville. How is this market impacting you guys?
So it's a little odd because what we've learned is you have to educate the consumer that does come in. So like you say, we're in Gainesville, Florida, which is basically a college town and a bunch of hospitals here. So typically our clients are either working in the school or in the hospitals, and then they live on the outskirts of town. So the market has been a little trying just as far as educating the consumer about how interest rates aren't as bad as they think they are, or how the price of houses increasing aren't as bad as they think they are. So outside of just educating the consumer, the market's been pretty decent in our area. We're kind of insulated because of where we are. I mean, we're in the tropics, for heaven's sakes. But the most trying part would be educating the consumer that the sky is not falling.
Yeah, and good sales professionals, that is their job, to educate the buyer regardless of market conditions. And we do see buyers freaking out. We see them freaking out all over the country right now. So your team's able to get out there and get in front of the realtors and the buyers that are coming in and help them to understand and navigate the market.
They are. And I guess the ultimately, if you have a full funnel, so if you keep your sales funnel full, then the ones that want to be educated, you can. The other ones, they're going to come back in a year or two and wish they had bought today.
Yeah. We see that all the time. You can't save your way out of this. We know that, but getting the buyers to understand that. Now, and I know you're doing some things with, just like a lot of builders, with trying to do some buy downs and offer some incentives that are frankly things that we haven't done in a while. So
yeah, it has been a while since we've done those. So I will say this, the buy downs have we've gotten pushback from the lenders now because they are reluctant to do a buy down because if they sell the mortgage, so more so, but ironically, the customers are leaning toward the incentives, which obviously, as the builders know, that's where your margins are. So the margins are a little higher, so you can do it in incentives, and again, you can still have a good margin when you finish with the home. But like I say, the buy down of the rate, surprisingly, we got pushback from lenders are scared to death to let you do that. So the incentives for options, upgrades, I know you hate that word upgrades, so I'll pretend like I didn't say that, but the options
choices,
for the
personal choices, I like personal choices.
So those have paid dividends for us to offer the incentives for those. And of course, your margins are a little higher on those, so you can give up a little bit to get the sale.
Yeah, and people just want to feel like they're getting a win today. So
yes.
They want to be able to walk away and feel good about it. For the past couple of years, we've just been telling people pound sand, take it or leave it. And though, I think it's a fortunate thing that those days are gone, but you also don't have to give away the farm. And, the big nationals can buy down those rates and do those big gigantic buys because they own the mortgage company, number one.
Yes.
But they're also limited in the amount of those that they can buy that aren't tied to particular buyers. So it does make it tougher for somebody like you to compete.
It does, but I think value over the big boys or value over price is what we're constantly trying to teach our sales force is you have to show the value that they get. And I tell my customers, if I get involved in a sale and they say, well, this guy's cheaper, I tell them you can pay me twice as much and you still get a better deal with me. Because if you buy down there, it doesn't come with Tug. It doesn't come with this team here at Red Door Homes to service you. And when you can get your sales team trained to say that with confidence, that you can literally pay me more money and get a better deal, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, you got to understand your value proposition. And I've said for years, price and value must equal. That is an equation you can take to the bank. And price fluctuates. So, as far as like a bottle of water, if I'm not going to pay $6 for a bottle of water on any normal day, but I go to the airport and I'm like, oh, wow, $6 for a bottle of water. I got a bargain because it's $8 at Starbucks, right? So,
yes.
All of a sudden it's about that perspective. So we have to support that value side of the equation all the way through and really knowing who you are and what you provide as a value part of the equation. Just to throw this out there, we were going to talk about this a little later, so I'm going to throw you off guard here. But guys, this is how much he believes this. Tug is now offering a guarantee to his buyers.
We are.
I thought he was nuts. So tell him about your guarantee, Tug.
The guarantee that my staff has allowed me to do, or the guarantee I want to do?
Let's start with the one your staff reined you in on, and then we can go to the other one because you're just going to blow people's minds here.
Okay, so the thing about a guarantee is you got to set yourself apart. So if you're competing with people left and right, well, builders are scared to do a guarantee. So our guarantee is we'll build your house on time, on budget, or I will make the interest payment if we go beyond 12 months of construction. So we guarantee the price at contract unless the scope of work changes, of course, which means that the homeowner changes something. But if all is the same, the price will not change and the timeline will not change. And if it does, I will pay your interest on your construction perm loan until we're done.
Yeah. So there was a couple of things in there. So he's a on your site builder guaranteeing the price. The price is not going to change and that we're going to deliver it in this amount of time. So, and that's from contract, not from start of construction, right? Or is it from start of construction?
Which part, the pricing or the timeline?
Or the timeline?
Well, so the timeline has built in is from permitting. So of course there's some caveats in there, and there's acts of God, of course. So, you got a little bit to
we have those in Florida.
Indeed, as I look out the window and watch it pour right now. But it's we tell the customer that from contract signing to move in is 12 months. And that's just blowing everybody out of the water. And we're able to do that, indeed. But the guarantee is from permitting to move in, which is 8 months.
Yeah. So
now,
talk about conversation points and giving your buyers to help them with some of their pain and some of their fear in pulling the trigger. So kudos to you. I gotta say, you gave me a little ajna there. So, and I know you gave Cammie your CFO some ajna as well. But then your team is all in, right? It's go big or go home kind of thing.
Go big or go bigger, and they have bought it, and that's the thing that I would point out to the builders that are on the thing now. If you're trying to get your team behind your vision or behind what you're trying to do, is you literally have to put a guarantee out there that they need to understand that if you do not accomplish it, potentially you could go out of business, which means that they don't have a job. So it's like burn the ships. I mean, you got to be all in if you really want to be there. I mean, under promise and over deliver. That's out the window. I'm about over promise and over deliver.
You heard it here, folks. I didn't prompt him on this. This is all him, man. It's all him.
So Kimberly, how about the guarantee that my staff won't let me employ?
So yeah, okay, go. All right, hold on to your socks, people. Here we go.
So this is where I want to be, team. It's going to be on budget, on time, or the house is free. And I say that because literally you have to burn the ships. If you want to motivate your team to get them behind you for the same goal and the same mission and to actually accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish, it takes extreme measures. So an extreme guarantee like that, you got to put your money where the mouth is.
We're going to take some steps to get there because I like for my builders to stay in business. So, but yeah, I mean, that's you couldn't have done this 2 years ago. So, this is not where you were.
No, not at all.
So let's talk about that journey that you've been on. Really, for the past, you started before I met you, but really in the past 2 years, you've really amped it up. So you were, like most builders, fighting fires every day, and of course, I always say, the best way to stop fighting fires is stop starting them. We start so many of our own fires, and then, we throw bodies at it trying to put out the fires, and we end up not having the systems in place. And the builder ends up, having to do everything, which is a recipe for disaster because you can only keep so many balls in the air at any given time there. So pardon my mixing of analogies, but so let's talk about from that firefighting mode that you were in to where you are today and how you're growing that business.
Yeah, and there's a lot in that statement and that question. So the firefighting, obviously, we've all went through COVID. So I started the Red Door brand in March. Our grand opening was March 14th of 2020. Anybody remembers what happens that weekend? That's when they shut the country down. So Red Door Homes, literally, I've got $500,000 invested in our storefront, our sales center. Saturday, March 14th, Monday, they shut the country down. So now, and I think we had 19 contracts on the books, and nobody knew what was going on. So let's not even talk about the fires that we were fighting because of just construction in general. So we had to navigate through that. So meanwhile, we're going through that and fighting fires of construction. It dawned on me that there has to be a better way. So the thing that I try to talk to when I talk to young contractors is we go into business because we're good craftsmen or we're good at our trade. So we're like, I'm a great builder. We should go build some houses. So we start a company, and then we hire a superintendent maybe, or we hire a bookkeeper. Next thing you know, 4 years later, you got 6 or 8 people and you're really good at building, but you're horrible at business. So you're constantly having to put out fires over here, if it's with your accounting department or with your sales team or with the ops department. The problem is as builders, especially for me anyway, you constantly have your foot on the accelerator. And you literally have to take your foot off the accelerator a little bit and coast and begin to put processes and procedures in place and then the right people so that you can stop fighting fires all the time, because we're flying an airplane right now that has basically you have like a wing that's on fire, and you have to keep the airplane in the air, but you have to go address the fire. So it's definitely a juggling act. And whenever I realized that if I would just tap the brakes and really look at what was going on and build a process and procedure behind it, that fire wouldn't reignite. So you say, if we stop lighting fires, then you don't have to fight them. Well, the problem with builders is a lot of times we don't know how to not light them, because we like to beat our head against the wall a bunch. I mean, if there's any builders out there, certainly hit me up in the chat box over there and say, yeah, you're a member of the Hard Knocks School. So to stop starting the fires, you have to slow down, which is hard for me to do because you can hear the coffee coming out of me. You have to slow down and literally begin to analyze what you're doing and put process procedures in place. And EOS is what we discovered that worked for us in order to do that.
So an EOS is, of course, traction. Gino Wickman wrote the book Traction, and now there have been several books that have come out of that.
Yeah.
But it's an entire system. It's the entrepreneurial operating system. And Tug is actually the builder who introduced me to EOS. I've since worked with several other builders who have it, and I see Nathaniel on. So hey, Nathaniel. So he's another one who stopped his business and put these systems in place. I mean, to the extreme, like they went to almost full stop, not just slow and go, and put this stuff in place and then rebuilt from there. I'm sure most builders can't do that. Circumstances kind of with COVID and everything else that happened kind of allowed some retooling, but you got to be able to slow that down and understand that there is a better way, and you can build these systems and still do your business, particularly if you will utilize your team to do it. So one person can't do it all. And that's, I think, where most of our builders, they feel like, hey, this was my brand, this is my company. You gotta put a good team around you. So you hired a Wonder Woman to help you first. So but we should probably talk a little bit about your unicorn with getting your CFO, who's way more than a CFO.
Yes, Cammie. So we found her a number of years ago, but that's the key is the people around you, like you say. So the thing is with Traction talks about your vision. That's the first thing you have to do is have your vision. And I'll touch on this again with builders. Again, we start our business because we're really good at building houses. We build beautiful homes, and that's what we want to do. But we never stop to say, well, where am I going? What's my vision? What's my long-term goal? Where am I going to end at? Well, when you slow down and you actually put together a vision, that's how you can recruit these unicorns, as you say. Because when you bring people on and you tell them where you're going, where you want to go, and how they can be a part of the vision, and they see the vision with you. I mean, you want to talk about making guarantees like I do, is they'll go to battle with you. I mean, they will literally go to battle with you at the tip of the spear because they bought into your vision. But if you don't have a vision or a plan, nobody's going to follow you. So you think you have people around you, you have some employees, but if you don't have a vision and if they aren't bought in, they're just there collecting a paycheck.
And we have to clearly communicate that vision, which I think is so, as you start to grow, it becomes harder and harder because now we're expanding beyond your core. We're expanding beyond the people that you are touching on a daily basis. And now you've got supervisors and they're supervising people, and we're adding layers. And as you add layers, it becomes further and further away if you don't have that core vision to hold everybody together and to give everybody basically a guidebook. This is how I want my customers to be treated. Yes. This is what I mean by right behavior. These are the things that we're going to do, that we stand for as a company.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you touched on that. You nailed the head. Your core group of people, if they're not bought in, then the people, the subordinates, are not going to be bought in. So it's a process. We got to make sure as you hire that they are bought into the vision, because if they're bought in and if they're going to go to battle with you, the people underneath them are going to be the same way, or else they're not going to last long. So two things will happen. You'll either ask them to leave, or they'll leave on their own because they realize they don't fit in. So everybody has to be bought into the vision. Everybody has to follow the core values, or they won't last long, especially at my company.
Yeah. And I think you don't just communicate. So often I talk to builders and they go, but I told them that. And I'm like, you can tell them till you're blue in the face. It's an ongoing conversation, and you're constantly reinforcing those values. You're constantly reinforcing that vision with every single person on your team and your buyers, your customers. So there's such a thing as customers for life for this stuff. Even though, I mean, we're building homes and you think, oh, well, you know, people are only going to buy from me once. No, that's not true.
No. And it is tricky, but it can be done. And it's like, you say, I've told them that. I've told them 12 times. I've told them 15 times. Well, if you have to keep saying I've told them that, I would ask you, have you showed it to them? Have you shown them? Have you shown them how you live your core values? Have you shown them how you live the vision? Because you can tell somebody anything, but your actions speak louder than your words. So if they don't believe that you're bought in, they will never buy in.
Yeah, I talk about lead from the side, which actually comes from horses. And, you know, I have a horse. Everybody that knows me knows I have a horse. But he, you know, I could pull this horse all day long and he's not going anywhere. He will just bow up and, I mean, just stop. But if I walk, my kid at 3 years old could take the lead rope and walk beside this horse and he would go anywhere with her. So you got to, yeah, I attribute that to leadership, is that you learn to walk beside people.
You do.
And instead of trying to force something to happen, you know, again, it's about that communicate. It's just about good communication. To get a horse to go where you want him to go, you just let them know and you look in that direction, and they will go with you. So, but they're not going to go without you. And they're certainly not going to go if you try to pull them and force them into it. And I think people are the same way. I think there's a lot of valuable lessons to be learned there. So how did you put together your team? And then have you had some setbacks along the way as you were putting together your team? I know you started with your accountability chart, which we can't overstate enough the importance. Accountability chart is like an org chart. But in Gino Wickman's world, it's about, these are the things. This is what your defined role in this company is, and the buck stops with you on these things right here.
It does. And in the book Traction, they talk about, when you have your company, you build the accountability chart. Like you said, it's like a work chart, but it's not. So you build the accountability chart with no names in it. Okay. So you have your business. Here's your key functions. You got you, and you may have a CEO, and then you've got your ops leader, and then you've got finance and HR, and then you got your sales and marketing manager, and then they may have a couple seats underneath them. So you build the accountability chart with no names in it. In the perfect world, here's all the functions that have to happen. Here's a seat. Here's what they have to do. No name in it again. So you build this out as this is what it takes to run my company. And then if you already have a staff, now you can look at the people and see, okay, do they fit here? Can they accomplish all of these things? If not, that's not the seat for them. The right people, right seat. I think that's Jim Collins, I think, is the one who talks about that, having the right person in the right seat. But the accountability chart it's blank. It's nameless. It's a chart that you build first. So you know how to run the business and what has to happen. And then you begin to plug people in. So when you first do the accountability chart, which we did actually in 2017, I built my first one. There was basically three of us, me, Cammie, you've talked about her, and then my brother. So you have an accountability chart that has maybe 14 seats and you got 3 people. So you've got your names all over the place. And that's when you realize, okay, as I continue to grow, which seat am I sitting in down here that has these tasks that I'm accountable for that I could hire for? And then you begin to recruit people, go through the interview process, and show them, this is exactly what I need you to do. This is it. You do these things right here and you'll be successful. And that's how you begin to expand your team. It's not that you bring your people in and then you tell them what you want them to do. You actually tell a person that doesn't exist what you need them to do, and then you recruit for that seat. And that's how we grew our company, was because we already had the accountability chart built of everything that we needed, all the components that have to happen, and then you recruit to fill those seats. And it's been very successful.
I see that so often, as builders usually bring me in when they reach that threshold where they have to grow and they realize their current systems are just not going to support it. So that's usually when I get brought in. And a lot of times the reason those systems are broken is that we threw some bodies. You know, we brought in our cousin, we brought in Billy Bob down the street, we brought in people we knew or had a relationship with. And then we tried to build, we said, okay, these people have these skills. Let's build a job around those skills. And then as you grow, it just becomes, a mess. Your org chart is like, it's crisscrossing, or you find yourself in too many seats. And as the leader of the company, you got to figure out what seat you really want to be in, because you don't have to be the head of your company. If you started the company, you're the founder of the company.
Yes.
But if you don't like running the company, then as we were talking pre-show, it's like, hire somebody to run the company.
Yes.
Hire somebody to do that stuff you don't like.
Yeah, and don't knock Billy Bob, because he got Employee of the Year from me last year. He did a really good job.
Bob's all right.
but you're right, though. And you talk about delegate and elevate as far as you don't want to run the company. Well, most of the time, us as builders, we don't want to run the company because we don't know how. And that was like a humbling time whenever I realized, holy cow, the company has outgrown me. I don't have the capacity to run this company. So I have to bring somebody in. Well, we were able to do that because we had the accountabilities all laid out. So now I'm hiring for somebody that can do these things that I didn't have the capacity to do because we got too big. So literally the company outgrew me. So instead of hitting a ceiling and stopping or getting too tall and tumbling over, you now know what position you need to recruit for that would enable me to move up into the visionary seat. So right now, my main role, and just about only role that I do at Red Door Homes, is the visionary. I create the vision and I point people where they want to go, and then I'm their cheerleader. I'm the guy with the pom-poms in the back cheering them on and motivating them. But it's because of the accountability chart, getting the right people in place to do that.
Now, you didn't just relegate, though, those responsibilities. When you put the right people, you're still holding them accountable. You're
Indeed.
Checking in. You don't just go, this is your job, go do it, and I'm never going to check on you again.
Wouldn't that be great? So no, so we have,
it would be great, right?
So we have weekly meetings, of course, and the L10 meeting, as you know, they're called L10 for level 10. So we have our scorecard, we have all of our numbers and our metrics, and I'm in 4 L10 meetings a week. So I have my department levels, and then I have our leadership team. So I go to all these meetings, but basically that's what I'm doing. Like you said, my main job now is to make sure that the trains are running on time and they're on track and the customers are happy.
And by setting those metrics and on the scorecard, numbers don't lie, people. Sometimes they tell you things you don't want to know, but those numbers don't lie. And it's really important to understand and follow those numbers in your company. And so that you see it happening real time, and you can make those adjustments.
Yeah, they say numbers don't lie, people. Numbers don't lie, people do. So when you have a scorecard and you have to put your numbers in weekly, and it's either red or green, somebody knows that Tuesday at 10 a.m. they're going to be sitting in a meeting, and I'm going to look at the scorecard and it's red, and now I'm looking at them in the eye. Why is it red? So they have to give an explanation, and then we work together as a team to fix it. Why is it red? Okay, great. What are we going to do to fix it? Acknowledge it, accept it, attack it.
And when you're the person who's holding multiple seats, guess what? You're accountable for those metrics. That's you. So when you have to look yourself in the eye and your team in the eye and go, I let you down. I said I was going to do this. I said we were going to accomplish this. I said we were going to make this amount of money, and we didn't do it. It's very transparent, and it'll hold you accountable as well.
It really does. And that's kind of the daunting thing about it, is whenever I have to go in there and I miss my rocks, my numbers, like you said, but also at the same time, it builds that rapport, because like you said, so you have to say, I missed this, and this is what happened, and can we all fix it together? So again, you get that camaraderie, and you get people behind you like, okay, he's not perfect. He also can make mistakes, and everybody just pushes to the same goals. But if you don't have targets, you don't have numbers, you don't have a scorecard, you don't have a vision, everybody's wandering around aimlessly.
Yeah, and they're afraid to make a move. That's what I see when I get into companies and there's a little bit of a dysfunction. It's that people are afraid. It's not that they don't want to do a good job. It may not even be that they don't have the capacity to do more. It's they're afraid because probably the owner or their boss or division leader or whatever is holding on a little too tightly to stuff. Sure. And this is freeing. It lets you let go of some of these things and know that, you're going to have the check-ins to be able to make sure that your people are doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And that not everything is a priority too. I think that's the other advantage of these L10 meetings is we literally decide our top 2 priorities for the week. And everything else stays on there. It's not like it goes away magically. There's no magic fairy that makes the work go away. I wish, right? But there's 2 top priorities. These are the top 2 things that I'm going to accomplish this week toward the goal of,
Yes.
And that way we keep marching forward, because I think in home building, we think everything is urgent.
It is. And to your point about whenever they have clear directions, because they know they have a number, they're responsible for these 2 numbers for the week. It empowers them, because now when they come in the morning, they know, okay, I'm working these are the numbers that I'm working on that I have to hit this week. So it gives them encouragement and empowers them to know that this is what I'm working on. Nothing else matters. Like you say, the horse analogy, I mean, they put the blinders on and they're focused on that. And by getting those 2 things done that week, it takes you that much closer to accomplishing the end goal, one at a time.
And if they get 3 things done, then hallelujah. But at least they knew what the top 2 priorities were. I think people get overwhelmed and stuck because there's so much to do. And it's like, oh, what do I do first? And then they spend so much time and energy and anxiety worried about what do I do first, because there's this lack of direction on what the true priority is.
Yeah, and then that's true. So once you show them the priorities, they can focus on it and attack it and complete the mission.
Yeah. I know, I was working with a lady who, was like, I want it all. I want everything done now, which of course we all do, right? So it could be any of us, right? But when we started breaking it down in those little bite-sized chunks, and really starting to look at, okay, this is what you can't do it all right now. Let it go. First, that was a whole thing, but let it go. And we're going to get this done, and we're going to get this done. We can worry about that next week. And it was amazing how much more we actually accomplished. We got so much more work done.
It is. Less is more. And as humans, we see we see a to-do list. It's got all these things on there, and we try to do 10 things at the one time. But literally, if you take those 10 things and then prioritize them and work it in order, you get so much more done.
It helps your team, and and helping them with their time blocking so that they can figure out, all right, this is going to be my focus blinders on, to use your analogy.
Yes.
This is going to be my focus blinders on time, and then this is going to be my reaction time, because if we're going to stop fighting fires, we still have to have a little bit of reactive mode, because our customers have needs, and those change. We all know a lot
daily.
Yes, for sure. So let's talk about, the scorecard we use to track the department health and the overall company health. But then we have other reports like our pipeline and our slot schedules that help us to focus on the jobs. So each one of the jobs and how we're maintaining those. And everybody who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of pipelines. I use them. I like sales pipelines. I like, after the sale, from start to, I want a pipeline for everything. I want to see people move. I like that linear movement that goes through there. But you went a little crazy with your pipeline and put it up on a wall. Can you tell us about that?
Well, we did. So we actually put the entire flow chart from a walk-in or a lead on the internet all the way to when they move in. It's about 66 feet long. And we broke it down into the sales phase and then pre-construction, and then on top of the entire construction process. But to your point about earlier, you mentioned about how do you stop putting out fires, or how do you try to navigate that? So you mentioned slot schedules. Well, that is critical, because your sales force could sell 10 houses a month. But if my ops team can only build 3 a month, you've got to set expectations with those other 7 people, or you're going to have a lot of upset people. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with slot schedule or not, but right now for our location in Gainesville, we can only build 3 houses a month. So we have to sell 3 houses. I have to pour 3 slabs, which means I have to deliver 3 sets of keys. So on our wall, our sales team has a tool. It has our slot schedule it's a 12-month rolling, and it has what's available and what's not available. And then we color the zones. We have a red, yellow, green. We use it like a traffic light of, this is the 1 superintendent, 2, 3 superintendents. So when the customer comes in, it's a tool for urgency. So they can show a customer, hey, your house is here and your next available slot's in February. So if you don't sign a contract today, potentially you can move down the line. But it also shows the customer the detail about our process and procedures, that they realize that for a builder or any industry for that matter, that says I can only do 3. So they realize that you recognize your capacity, because some builders will say, oh yeah, we can start it right away. Well, they're fooling themselves because they can't start it right away. They know they can't. So you actually build
or they might start it and then it's going to fix itself somewhere. It's going to stall.
It stalls out and it lingers, and now you have an upset customer. But when a customer comes in and we tell them we can build 3 a month, that's all we can do. We can do it efficiently, on time and on budget every time, but only 3. So you begin to set yourself apart from other builders, because they'll go into another builder and say, hey, so when can you start my house? Oh, we can start it next month. Oh, really? Well, how many houses do you have going on? Well, I don't know. We got a bunch. But when you have a slot schedule posted on the wall and you live and die by that slot schedule, it allows your sales team to sell to it. But again, I want to reiterate what it does for your customer, because it builds confidence in you as a firm. It also builds exclusivity, because if you say I can only do 36 houses a year, now they're like, oh my gosh, they're only doing 36. I got to hurry up and get in there. I may have to wait 6 months, but they're only doing this many because they're doing them efficiently and on time and on budget. I need to be with those guys. So the confidence level of your buyer goes way up. Not only when you build by a slot schedule, but when you advertise it, post it, show it, and then train your sales team how to use it and educate your buyer the advantage of a slot schedule. I may delay your start for 2 months, but I can still guarantee your end date, as opposed to your point, other builders, oh yeah, I can start it next month. They can start it, but they can't finish it for 14 months because they don't have the capacity. And our capacity, touching on the side you were talking about earlier about the industry stuff that we're dealing with now, is our trade partner shortages. So you're fighting with trade partners. So there's only so many electricians, only so many plumbers. So the one of the reasons why we have our 3 slot schedules is because our concrete guy can only pour 3 slabs a month. My framer can only build 3 houses a month. So if you set up a relationship with the trade partner, just says, I guarantee you 3 slabs a month. I guarantee you 3 houses you can frame. I guarantee you 3 houses you can roof. Now you begin to build the same confidence and rapport with your trade partners, because they know you're not going to overwhelm them and you're not going to underwork them, because it's 3.
And so they can plan and they know it's going to be good, steady work. Chuck Shin is the person who is a guru in our industry. And he coined the phrase even flow construction.
Yes.
And I was privileged to take his managing for profits course back years ago when I first got into this business. And I said, but that's not going to work with sales because you can't even flow sell. Well, I've since taken that back. I have walked it back big time, because when you have a very strict even flow start schedule, you also have you can sell to that start schedule, but you do have to train your sales team, and you have to train them on the benefits of selling to that start schedule for the buyer, so the buyer understands it. And and to me, just like a dirty job site to me is a builder that's not paying attention. They're getting sloppy. What details are they missing? And dirt will hide a lot of mistakes. The same thing goes for this. If you've got a builder that's paying attention to this level of detail, the confidence that inspires in your buyers to go, wait a minute, these people really do know their stuff.
Yes.
And they know the why behind it. So they've got their building down to a science.
And that's the thing. And ultimately, you get to deliver the product that you promised. And that's what we want to do. As builders, we genuinely care about the customer. We genuinely want to deliver the product that we sold. But we get too rambunctious, or we get ahead of ourselves. The way they say, over your skis, I think is what they say, because we want to promise all these things to make the sale or to get the next thing rolling. And then we just can't do it. And it's not fair to the homeowner, but it's not fair to the builder as well. And it took me about 15 years to figure that out.
Well, it also forces you to communicate. So your sales team, if they can stop selling by process of elimination, and they can start being an assumptive closer instead, which is a far more comfortable thing to be, because they can just say the next step is, because all about being an assumptive closer is being able to tell the buyer, hey, the next step is we're going to do this. And then after that, we're going to need to do blah, blah, blah. And then you'll go to the lender, and then we'll have our design appointment. And so the buyer knows every step of the way what is happening, what's happening next. And they just go right along with you because they're not scared, because we set those expectations. So we keep that sales pace moving forward with that buyer by setting those expectations. And then the building process starts, and it starts all over again. we start telling, this is the next step. This is the next thing we're going to do. You know, we're going to do your pre-plumbing, and here's what that means. We're going to dig these trenches, and you're going to start to see some pipes come in here, and, you know, it's going to look like a mess. And then there's going to be some rebar, and then we're going to pour, you know, you can tell them every step of the way, because we think they know and they don't know. And when you demystify the process, you create happy buyers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's a good point. So a lot of people kind of make fun of the 66-foot chart that's on the wall or what have you. So we have what we tell the customer, there's 6 easy steps. And then we show them, you know, pick a plan, customize it, financing. So there's this little section that has 6 things that the homeowner has to do. So we show them those, and then we show them the other and say, so you only have to do these 6. We're going to do all of this. And then, like you said, we walk them through that. So it allows them to see, oh my gosh, okay, so it's not just these little simple 6 steps. So we don't ask them to obviously understand the entire chart, but like you're saying, we walk them through each step of the way. And ironically, it's funny you say that, it's going to be a mess. So I always go through the emotional roller coaster with them. I always say, all of a sudden, you're going to have a slab, you're going to get so excited, and then the house is going to pop up like a balloon. And you're just going to be tickled to death and think you're going to move in next month. And then nothing is going to look like it's happening for 2 months, and you're going to hate me. So literally, we set the expectations with them about how fast things pop up and how long the mechanicals take and so on and so forth. So that when they get there, the house pops up and they feel like nothing's happened. They say to us, oh my gosh, you told me I was going to feel like this. So they're not upset. They're not anxious because they know the process. Like you said, you demystify it and you go ahead and you tell them how they're going to feel. We've been in this business a long time. Everybody who's here watching this has built probably hundreds of homes, and you know how the customer's emotions is. You need to tell them before you start, because it may be their first house. They may not know these emotions that are going to come. And if you tell them now, you look like a rock star when they have that anxiety, because you told them 6 months ago that this was going to happen. You're a hero when they have that feeling.
I built during the pandemic, and I asked my salesperson I said, talk to me just like any other customer. I mean, I can only imagine it's intimidating to build a home for me. So, but But I asked her, I was like, please tell me, you know, the same stuff you tell because I don't know your process the way you do. And I'd rather you tell me something I already know than not tell me something I need to know. And you know, and I asked a lot of questions, and that's someone who, you know, has built a lot of homes and gone through this process many, many times, including my own homes. But there's some anxiety that goes along with it. The chat's has been a little quiet here. Tug's laying down some knowledge here. So let's get that chat going up. And Tug, let's talk about the pipeline and how we use that to make sure we're staying on track and on time, but also how we're remaining profitable. So how does that work in your world?
So the pipeline, I lean on you because you work with our sales team to make sure that the pipeline's full. How do you mean as far as profitable on that side of that?
So, you know, on some of the stages that I put on the pipeline once we've started construction, so we actually run budgets. And,
yes.
I think you pull your budgets every week. So for some of my builders, that's going to freak them out. So guys, if you're listening, calm down. I'm not asking you to do that. But if we pull it at pre-start and then we pull it at frame stage, so before pre-drywall, yes, when we get there, and then we pull it again before settlement or closing if we're an in-loan builder, then we're going to know where we are. We're going to be able and in between we have all the stages of all the stuff that has to happen that should mirror your scope of work that you're putting in your purchase orders. Am I missing something?
No, it is. So I think you misunderstood me when I said look at them weekly. So we look at the company numbers weekly as a whole, globally. And then, like you said, we only monitor the project at certain milestones to make sure that they're on budget. The key, though, and I kind of want to touch on this, is protecting your margin. So the thing that a lot of builders, at least I had at the beginning, was you want to trade your margin for the sale. So I don't know are you guys familiar with, somebody could pop this in the chat. Are you familiar with the, what's Bob Whitten call it? The inflation factor. So you have your cost of the house. So once you do your estimate for a floor plan, it's going to cost X. Well, then you have to put in your inflation factor, which for us up to 2 years ago was 3%. So if the house is $100,000, now your sales price is $103,000, and then you put your margin on there. So one of the things that that I learned a number of years ago is that you have to protect the margin no matter what. Well, I learned from Bob Whitten years ago is you have to put the inflation factor in it. Well, when 2020 hit, where the inflation went through the roof, a lot of people got burned because either A, there was no inflation factor period in there, or obviously it was way too low. So the pipeline and monitoring your budgets allow you to see those hiccups way before they happen. So when 2020 hit and lumber went through the roof some 60%, I mean, a lot of us got our shorts snatched off of us. And either people canceled their contracts, as you've talked about before, or we just had to bear through it. Well, we ended up bearing through ours and made good on all of them. Well, because of that, once we recognize what's happening with inflation, now we put a 12% inflation factor on top of the cost, and then we divide out our margins, and then we watch them like a hawk. Because no matter what you do in business, you need to make a profit. And the only way you're going to make a profit is to A, protect your margins, and B, watch them regularly. You have to know what your numbers are. If you don't know what your cost of goods sold is right now, if you can't tell me what your cost of goods sold is, then I can tell you you're not going to make a profit. Guaranteed, period. End of discussion.
And it's not your cash flow. Don't confuse it with your cash flow.
Do not mix the two, because cash flow can be easy when you're in between bank draws, you're in between huge payments. Your bank account can have $500,000 on it, but you're going to lose $100,000 by the end of the year, and you don't know it. If you don't know it, then you don't know it, and you're going to lose money.
Yeah, Nathaniel just chimed in and says you need to account for your average variance. If you
That's
know
right.
if you know your costs typically vary by 2%, and you need to price that in. So
good point, Nathaniel. That's another thing that we do. And actually 2% is actually the number that we use as well, because it's plus or minus is what we use as a 2%. So that's a very good point. That plus your inflation factor, and then your margin. A lot of people don't understand what I'm saying. It's cost of the house to build it, then your inflation percentage that you put on top of that, then your margin goes on top of that. So you're protecting the inflation, and your margin is on top of the inflation and the variance. Nathaniel, do you put your variance before you put your factor in it, or do you do it after you put your margin in it? Because we put ours on top of the cost, then we multiply the margin. I know I'm getting kind of in the weeds a little bit, but it's very important to be successful and profitable in our business in this time.
Well, the other thing that I would say in there is you also need to add in your sales and marketing cost as a hard cost in each house budget. And some people want to set that aside and have it be in their overhead over here. And then they'll run their numbers, and that's where you end up getting all out of whack. So for me, every house budget has a sales and marketing. There's a percentage of every one of them that goes in there. And that factors in, a lot. That factors in your team, your internal, your external, your general realtors, your hard costs on marketing that you're carrying throughout. As well as your co-broke percentage that you're anticipating, particularly if you're in a community that's a little easier to figure out than if you're out scatter site. But you know what your overall is, or you should know what those numbers are.
Yeah, and the cost of acquisition customer is kind of what you're saying. So if you know how much it costs to get a customer, you just take that average and add it to the cost of the house. So that's what you're referring to. And then your co-broke fee, you know how many co-brokes you're going to have. Ours is 50%. So we just divide it in half across all of them, and it's built into the price of the house. And that's how you protect your margin. A lot of builders don't understand that. They have the cost, they do their margin, and then they start subtracting out of that margin. And then all of a sudden they wake up one day and they made $0.
Or worse. I mean, I've had builders had to come to the table with a check. So, or, put a deck on a home or do all these things at the end. And if you don't know what those things are, you can find yourself in a world of hurt. And again, guys, this is not a 5-minute change in your company. This is a whole way of existing. So it's getting you in that proactive mode for your business, and you might have to slow down a little bit and then get ahead of it. And the builders that I know that have been successful in doing that, I'm working with some builders right now who are trying to do it at the same time as they're keeping their business going. And it reminds me very much of Tug's analogy of, while the airplane is in flight, you're out on the wing trying to fix things. You can get it done. It's going to be a lot harder, a lot more dangerous, and it's going to take you a lot more time to do it. But you can still get there, particularly if you enlist the help of your team and you get the right people involved. But you got to get some help for sure.
And Nathaniel says, and the airplane's on fire. And that's good that he started 3 years ago. That's about the time. Well, we started in 2017, and it's taken me about this long to get to where I feel comfortable with it. So congratulations on that. That is phenomenal. And like you said, the airplane is on fire.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job getting ahead of their business. And I'm sure Nathaniel will agree with, I mean, it's not always straightforward. You know, people are shooting at you. Bears are chasing you, or in our case, alligators, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's very much like that. But it's not straightforward. Like, you make some progress and then give yourself some grace, because you're going to fall backwards. The key is you're working toward it and you realize where your vision is going to take you, so that you can get there, and just don't give up. You know, I think so often I've had people that they go and they do really great for a while and then they backslide, and you know, getting it started again becomes harder and harder and harder. If you just keep that object in motion, if you keep your business in motion, it's going to be so much easier to keep it in motion.
It is. So, and Grant Cardone famously says you can only fail if you quit. So keep moving forward, because if you don't quit, you can't fail.
Yeah. Any other questions for Tug, guy? This is so amazing. I know I'm a total geek on this stuff. But I could talk about this stuff all day long. Any other questions? How about, I know we have some sales and marketing people on here. Any questions about how this kind of applies to you? So they're getting quiet.
They are. Their lunch is over. Now they're thinking about taking a nap.
Yeah, I hope you guys didn't have pasta if you were trying to have pasta while all this was going on. So that's definitely not good. And I'm looking at some of our attendees. We've got some people who are normally quite chatty. So, but you know, on the sales and my company still has an escalation clause. So, I'm not supposed to call you guys out. An escalation clause. That's interesting, Connie, that you still are experiencing that. So at this point, I think we should have a pretty good handle on our expenses. So, and she ate pasta. So it is a double whammy for you, sister.
That's great.
So that's something maybe to go back with your, I don't know what, if you're working for a publicly traded builder or you know, if you're with a smaller regional, but go back and look at that and really examine, are we not being proactive enough on our budgets that we're having to do this? Because it could just be that there's some fear there. She says a private builder. So, you know, I saw private builders during the last 2 years who just decided, well, I'm going to become a speculation builder and kind of remove the customer from the equation, so I have a handle on my cost. Well, now that the market's changed, that's a lot more risky. And you could find yourself still holding on to some homes or having to reduce the price on those homes, because when you started them 18 months ago, the market was here. And now we're finding that even though we put all those bells and whistles in there, the market's here. And so we're going to take some losses. So that's a little riskier if you're not doing these things and being proactive about it. So we are at the top of the hour. I will, of course, include Tug's. You're okay if I give your email out? I just posted it for the world to see. So
can't guarantee I'll answer you anytime soon, but give me a day or two.
Yeah, it takes a while sometimes. So,
and I'm a geek. I love to talk to people. So if you shot me an email with a phone number you wanted to talk, I would I'll talk with you for an hour.
So yeah, reach out. I mean, I'm super excited, Tug, about what you and your team have accomplished. They're a lot of fun to work with. One thing about it, they have a good time doing this while they're doing it. So, and I think that speaks to volumes to you and the culture that you've created there. So, and again, putting those good team players around you that you have. So thanks everybody. And I will see you again on Head to Head until December. Of course, got Power Hour coming up in October. I think it's October 19th. So I will see you guys then. And I will certainly email this recording out to everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Tug.
You're welcome.